All right. We're here. Happy new day, everybody. Happy new day, world. It's Sabrina J. Lewis coming at you live right now. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. I am here because we have been reading all week Humble Consulting by Mr. Edgar Schein. How to provide real help faster. Let me make sure I'm on Facebook. Okay. Am I on live? I am. All right. Happy new day, everybody. Again, it's Sabrina J. Lewis coming at you live from Brooklyn, New York. I am here. We are reading Humble Consultant by Mr. Edgar Schein. How to provide real help fast. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. We are in the third chapter. We're talking about the need for a trusting and open level 2 relationship. We're talking about how to provide real help faster. Okay, we started this read on Monday with the preface, and we are here today. We are here today to continue on where we left off. All right, page 38, task and goal oriented personalization. As the cases in this book show, whether either the client or the helper chooses to personalize, the personalization is usually constrained by the initial assumption that both are there to create a helping relationship. If a client calls me and asks if I would do a culture survey for him, a level 1 response might be, sure, what do you have in mind? If a client calls me and asks, okay, wait, let me go back. Okay, one level response might be, sure, what do you have in mind? Indicating a readiness to provide him the expert service he is asking for. If I am operating as a humble consultant and trying to personalize the relationship towards a level 2, I might say, tell me more. Or why do you want to do a culture survey? Or what do you have in mind? Or what do you mean by culture? Or why did you decide to call me? Right now, we're talking about level 2. Alternatively, I can try to personalize. Wait, let me go back. Okay, alternatively, I can try to personalize by revealing something more personal about myself. I could say, in my experience, I have found such surveys work only if they are linked to a clear business problem. Such problems or such questions or revelations both invite or subtly force the consultant into more of a personal conversation and will often move us to what is really on the client's mind more rapidly. Notice, however, that such questions are relevant to the situation that the client opens with. It would not occur to me at that point to ask, how old are you? Or what is your family situation? Which might be appropriate in another context, such as on a blind date. Let me get my highlighter and my pen because we have to make sure that we're understanding what we're reading. So, like, I'm reading to you, but I'm also reading to me at the same time. And I just want to make sure I'm really understanding this. It's basic common sense. I get it. But we want to make sure that we're really getting it to apply the principles. So he says, notice, however, that such questions are relevant to the situation that the client opens with. It would not occur to me at that point to ask, how old are you? Or what is your family situation, which might be appropriate in another context, such as a blind date, as he just said previously. The personalization has to occur around the basic tactic assumption that this is a meeting of one person seeking some kind of help and another person trying to be helpful. Have no day, y'all. How this plays out as the relationship evolves. But for now, I want to be clear that the decision to personalize into a level 2 relationship is designed to build trust and the consequent openness to find out what is really going on in the client's mind within cultural context of the helping situation. Again, we are reading How to Provide Real Help Faster by Mr. Edgar Schein. If the client accepts the invitation and responds in a personal way, a relationship enters the testing phase, where each interaction we continue to choose whether to get more or less personal as the situation affords. But it is important to realize that the conversation remains task related. We don't become instant friends because that is not our purpose. We may become highly open and frank around what we actually think that a particular survey might or might not be helpful. I know of one example where the client wanted a particular kind of intervention that I kept challenging. After an extended conversation in which trust was building up, the client finally revealed that she had been asked to do it by a board member and had promised to do it even though she had doubts herself. Her real problem turned out to be that she did not know how to deal with this board member. So we switched into a useful coaching session on that issue. I'm here, y'all, reading How to Provide Real Help Faster to help you as you on your journeys to work, to help people. And I know that this read will help you along that journey. Many days and in times I wish that I had a specific type of information as I was on my way to the hospital to provide some help. And when I came across this book, I was like, wow, this is it. So let us help more people. All right. We're on page 40, chapter 3, content versus process. Another important issue to consider is whether we personalize around the presenting problem or around the manner in which the client is presenting it and the process that the client is proposing. I can get extremely curious about the content of what the client has presented to me or around the process that the client is proposing. The client may say, I have an engagement problem in my organization and would therefore like to do a culture survey. I have several choices of how to respond. I have several choices of how to respond. That is, what to become curious about. For example, I might ask, what do you mean by the word engagement? Or what is worrying you about lack of engagement? Or why do you want to survey? Or why do you want to do a survey? Or why did you choose to call me at this time? What is going on? I would be probing 3 different kinds of processes: the client's thought and problem solving process, these underlying moments, because this is when we're actually helping, right? So he said he would be probing 3 different kinds of processes: the client's thought and problem solving process, the client's clarity of thought about how to proceed, and the client's assumptions about what the consultant should do. I may agree to doing a survey, but want to steer him to an organization that would combine an individualized survey with group interviews. If he really wants to do that, if he wants to get at the nature of the culture. This response invites the client to explore why I might want to do group interviews and leads ultimately to a better joint decision of what the next move might be. The point is that the ultimate joint decision on which process to use will be valid only if we establish enough of a level 2 relationship to elicit from both of us what we really think. Because when you're doing initial analyzation of a problem, people are not always 100% with you. You have to ask specific questions and get a little personal so that you can get an honest response most times, right? So, to summarize, with complex, non technological, messy problems, a level 2 task oriented relationship becomes necessary in order to create enough trust that reveals that the real motives, issues, and concerns of both helper and client surface. This level 2 personalization remains task focused and is only as deep as needed. It does not imply emotional attachments or personal information that might be regarded as intimate in the society. In fact, we usually accept the reality that getting intimate with the client is not desirable. But as helpers, we have to learn that level 3 is going too far. Level 1 is not enough. We have to learn to personalize to an optimal level 2. I agree. Oh, I don't have my water in here. I need my water. Okay. Level 3, intimacy and emotional attachment, friendship and love. Let's get into this because I feel like this here has had like such an effect on places and have been completely out of order. And so let's get into this. Let's get into this. Level 3 relationships are what we might call intimate or close relationships that go beyond the more casual connections that can occur in level 2. This level is more emotionally charged and implies all of the trust and openness of level 2. But in addition, it assumes that we will actively support each other as needed and actively display emotional, longing behavior toward each other. We want to avoid level 3 in organizational work because it can cause fraternization, nepotism, and or degrees of favoritism that are considered to be impedient, an impediment to getting work done and are often labeled in our culture as corrupt when they occur in the business or work arena. Therapists are not supposed to get involved in the personal lives of their patients. Office romances are considered inappropriate. Gifts and payoffs are considered illegitimate as incentives to get things done. These and other norms of appropriate and inappropriate personalization apply to all helping relationships as well. I recall working in a hospital. I was working on a particular program, and there was a gentleman who would come to my office almost every single day to see if he could help me in any way. He knew that we couldn't exchange gifts. He knew that we didn't share the same exact patients, but he would always have something for me to do. He was in oncology, I was in hematology at the time. Though my work cross references in oncology because we do have families and individuals that are battling cancer that also has sickle cell. And then when you're dealing with hemoglobinopathies, you often have to deal with blood disorders relating to cancer or sickle cell. And so I had to draw the line. I had to let them know, listen, I'm not interested. I'm here to do my work. We can have lunch off premises, but that's it, right? Like that's it. And so we have to be clear in what we got going on. If we're talking about a level 3 intimate relationship or friendship, the cultural rules of what one should be open and expand in, that we deepen our relationship through successful cycles of revealing more and more of our private feelings, reactions, and observations as we calibrate uh, level the level of acceptance by the other person of what we are revealing by their reciprocation of more revelations of his or her own. Again, you all who are watching me right now, we are reading Humble Consultant: How to Provide Real Help Faster by Mr. Edgar Schein. All right. We ask more personal, intimate questions of each other and test whether they are well received or offensive, and thereby learn what level of intimacy feels comfortable. Even intimate relationships have clear boundaries and vary in how deep they get. What we have learned in our culture when we grew up provides guidelines and limits for such openness, and we all build up our own sense of what we consider private to be shared only with exceptionally intimate friends and family members. Occasionally, we will find tasks and situations such as Navy SEALs or Army Rangers doing an operation together that require some level of intimate knowledge of how each person works, because accomplishing the task itself requires a high degree of collaboration. In defining these levels, I am not asserting that the boundaries are initially clear or that the responses of others are always predictable. Part of building the level 2 relationship is to mutually discover the boundaries of personalization as each party calibrates how the other responds to a change in level of openness and finds that level of comfort where we feel we trust each other and can count on each other to be open and truthful. Summary of levels. I have discussed 4 levels of relationship marked by different degrees of trust and openness. These definitions of the 4 levels are fairly clear at the extremes, but when we are defining helping relationships, we have to acknowledge that within level 2, there is still a broad range of possibilities of what we mean by trust and openness. The humble consultant must build a level 2 relationship by becoming more personal, either in what she asks or in what she reveals, but must at the same time avoid the formality of level one professional distance or the violation of privacy that would be felt in the level three intimate questions or revelations. A great part of this skill of the helper is in managing this balance between too formal and one extreme and too intimate at the other extreme. Through the boundaries between these levels might be, though the boundaries of these two levels might be quite fuzzy, the principle is that humble consulting requires a level two relationship. Professional level one relationships do not solve or ameliorate complex human problems at level. Level three relationships are considered ethically out of bounds and in virtually all modern professional contexts. If level two joint exploration of what is really the problem reveals that there is a technical solution, a fix that can be implemented, the humble consultant would either have the skills herself and apply them or would help the client find the right expert consultant or doctor to provide the solution. If the problem remains ill defined, complex, messy, or constantly changing, the role of the humble consultant is to continue to help the client define and implement adaptive moves that will improve the situation. Okay, now we're going to get into case illustrations. We're on page 43. My own insight. My own insight into what is involved in HC, humble consulting, grew over a number of years of experience. It is especially in cases where the boundaries of the relationship were ignored that I developed some of the insights of the consequences of operating at different levels. What time is it? 8:58. Okay. Case 2, page 44. This is a case study, y'all. Good intentions, not much help. The engineering interviews. Hey, YouTube. Hey, IG. Hey, Facebook. Just shouting y'all out. Thank you for being present. Let's go. Page 44, chapter 3, the need for a trusting and open level 2 relationships. Level 1 is too distant. Level 3 is too extreme. Level 2 is in the middle, where we get to know a person just a little bit more. We ask those tough questions so that we can provide real help. Okay, so we're about to get into a case study where he's going to reveal the case, and we're going to go through some lessons of that case, okay? Good intentions, not much help. The engineering interviews. I present this case because it fits the traditional consulting. Level 1. Level 1 model. The level 1 model and illustrates how that model can utterly fail to be helpful while wasting valuable organization, null, and helping resources. Okay, early in my assistant professor relationship. No, early in my assistant professorship at the MIT Sloan School, my mentor and boss, Doug McGregor, asked a colleague and me, would you like to help a neighboring company improve its engineering operations by interviewing the engineers to find out what is and is not working, then summarize your findings and present them to the head of engineering. Doug explained that the request had come to him from the VP of administration, and the process was set up for us by the company. In effect, we were being hired as organizational doctors to examine this group as a patient, to make a diagnosis, and to recommend solutions. And we would be paid to do this. It was my first introduction to the world of management consulting. The administrative secretary of engineering department set up rooms, established an individual interview schedule, and told the engineers by means of a memo that we would be talking to them. We completed the interviews over a period of a month or so, carefully analyzed all the data, and prepared a report that highlighted things that were working, things that needed improvement, and comments about management. At the end, we made several recommendations that reflected our diagnosis of what was wrong and how to fix it. We set up a 2-hour interview with the head of engineering, gave him the report, and were prepared to explain how we could improve his department. He looked at the table of contents, found the section on management, read some of the comments that were clearly critical of his management style, became somewhat stone faced, thanked us very much, and terminated the meeting. We never heard from him or anyone else in the company again, so we never learned whether we had helped or harmed or beamed irrelevant. We had done our job, so we also did not discuss the whole process with Mr. Gregor, Mr. McGregor. We did, however, have a strong sense that this had failed in some way. So here are the lessons from that case study. We had our consulting model. Where had our consulting model failed? All right. Come on, y'all. Hurry up, pass by. Y'all too loud out here. From my perspective now, we failed in almost every possible way. Okay, so he says we never spoke to the VP of administration or the head of engineering before launching the interviews. So we had no idea of what their goals or possible hidden agendas may be, because there's always an agenda. There's always an agenda, and we got to know our goals, right? They, they were level one strangers to us at the beginning and throughout the project. Even more to the point, we never discussed with the head of engineering what we would ask or alerted him to the reality that his management style would be in the report. We should not have been surprised that our feedback meeting with him was stiff, formal, and unproductive. We went into the interviews with no sense of who the client really was. What, see, this is good. This is where we underline and this is where we highlight keys of the lessons, right? We got to know who our clients are. Who is your client? And what are the problems being solved? He says, we went into the interviews with no sense of who the client really was, what the problems were being solved, or even what improving meant. We were arrogant enough to think because we were arrogant enough to believe that we knew what improvement meant in some absolute sense. We did not explore Doug McGregor, what he meant in mind in offering us this assignment. Here's more lessons. We had focused entirely on being good scientists, doing a thorough diagnosis through competent interviews, a careful context analysis, and a complete summary of what worked, what didn't work, and what we thought should be done differently. As scientists gathering data, Happy New Day. As scientists gathering data, we never considered what issues were on the mind of management or what change goals they had. Was the engineering department not productive or innovative enough? Was there a morale problem or too much turnover? We never knew how the project connected to the business problems the organization was trying to address. All this was scientifically irrelevant to the role we had accepted. Okay. We had the illusion that our careful diagnosis and recommendations spoke for themselves. I learned for the first time that diagnosing a problem, or diagnosing a system rather, just for the sake of a diagnosis, is not very helpful, because in any complex system, one can diagnose it from multiple points of view, just as a personality can be diagnosed from many points of view. Diagnosing organizations and or cultures for their sake is not helpful. It may be scientifically interesting, but if we are trying to help, it works better if there is some problem or issue that is driving the need for a diagnosis. Happy New Day. In summary, the biggest lesson was that being a scientist gathering data is not the same thing as a helper, right? Even when a particular diagnostic tool touts scientific reliability and validity, which may be helpful to the scientist trying to measure the organization for some research purposes, it is not necessarily helpful to the client trying to solve a problem. This insight was strongly reinforced some years later when I did a scientific group analysis of the culture of an organization as part of an executive development program. I thought it was fascinating. The group thought it was boring and wondered why we were doing it. For them, it did not connect to anything. For me, it was research data. The two things are not the same. All right. So that was a case study based on having good intentions, but not really helping because we didn't ask specific questions, or they didn't ask specific questions to the leadership so that they can understand the goals to be met. Okay, we're going to do this last case study 3. I believe we are. Let me see if we will have enough time. No, we will not because it's too long. The next case study is going to be long. So the next case study is going to be dealing with adventures of digital equipment. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to end it now. We're 7 minutes over. I wanted to make sure I gave you all your complete 30 minutes. We're going to come back on Monday morning. We're off for the weekend, y'all. We are off for the weekend. So I'm going to stop here on page 47. And we're going to talk about case number 3, adventures with Digital Equipment Corporation. All right. So we've gotten through a couple of pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Got through 9 pages today. Wow. So I'm not gonna read anymore because it'll just sound too long. So I'll come back on Monday. Enjoy your weekends. Have a wonderful, wonderful, happy weekend. Do something to make you happy. Yesterday I did something to make me happy. I'm still playing in my hair. It could do so many different things. I can pull it up. I can pull it back. I had it pulled back in a little bun bow thingy. And yeah, I'm gonna go. I got to get into work mode now, but I just wanted to give you all some inspiration to help you along your journeys. Hopefully the case studies that I did give you today will help you as you're having your meetings, as you're doing your own case studies and analysis, and just pretty much triaging your own organization. As you're triaging your own organization or having other people do it, make sure that the communication is clear, that you define your goals clearly, that you understand and know exactly what it is that you really want to do, right? Because if we don't, then we're not going to get the outcomes and we'll just be wasting money and time. And we don't want to waste time. We don't want to waste time, right? I'm in New York City. In New York City, everything is rush, rush, rush. We're always on a go. We're just trying to get things done. So if we take the time out to communicate effectively what we desire to see, that we will receive. All right? Bye for now, y'all. See you later.